Welcome back. This is Fantastic Pains and How We Hide Them. I'm not Chris.
And I'm not Karina.
But we're here together.
As usual.
For more fun times and shenanigans. If this is your very first time joining us, welcome to the show. This is our sibling duo podcast / YouTube channel about life with chronic and invisible conditions, including those that are mental and emotional.
Because I'm mental and she's emotional.
Facts. Yep. Where can they find us?
You can find us everywhere. We're on IMDb. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on most podcast platforms except for Apple.
Yeah.
And we also have a Discord where you can join in the fun. You can talk with us, ask questions, or join the lives that we do on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yes. Great fun. All righty, friends. We are shooting on a weird day, but that's okay because we got some stuff to do. We're going to be continuing our conversation about context and all of the important things that go along with that. Last week was kind of an off week, but we're going to be doing... Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
And then the week before that was crazy episode.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing more of those crazy episodes, though.
Oh, yeah. Point of housekeeping. That's going to be its own thing now.
Yes.
So we'll have... I'm not sure if it'll be like a midweek madness kind of thing.
Yeah.
And do like the serious stuff on the weekend and then the goofy stuff we'll do during like Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
But
we'll see. It'll be fun. We're excited. You guys liked it, so we're going to continue because it was fun for us.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Are we going to do a weekly recap?
We can. I can do mine.
Recap, yeah. So then I guess it is time for the weekly recap.
Check in.
In fact of point.
That's the way to say it. She did it.
I got distracted.
Like
halfway
in
through
fact
the thought. Halfway through the thought, my brain was like, sparkly.
Yeah. We'll do your week because your week we can't talk about. So
I'm not being like super secretive. If you're on the lives, you know a lot more of what's going on.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of unsureness in my world right now. And when I have some surety, I will share more.
When there's news, you'll present it.
Right now, we are in the data gathering phase where we're going to collect as much information as possible. And then hopefully that will help me to make a decision on what comes next.
Absolutely.
But, yeah. I'm done with work. Thank you, Lord. Well, not really. I have a call on Friday that I have to do.
Still.
But
it's summer.
It's summer. We're done. And I'm so happy. I'm going to sleep forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the plan. And then get my house back in order. And I'm excited about that. And then, yeah, it's just been lots of dysautonomia time. Forever now.
I feel like that's most of what mine's going to be. Like,
it's just dysautonomic.
If I go 2 weeks back... It's been a very long time.
Yeah.
It would not stop. I was fatigued out of my brain through the whole thing. I'm surprised you were able to do as much as you did because I could not.
It was the like looking to the future and being like, oh my God, we're almost done. Oh my God, we're almost done. Oh my God, we're almost done.
There's the field goal. I can do this.
Yeah. And I was just, exhausted the whole time. Oh, and then I messed up my foot.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I did there, but like it was really angry. And last weekend just sucked. It just sucked. It was not a good time at all.
No.
I did not have a fun time. But actually, that's a lie. We did D&D and that was fun. But we barely made it through.
I get to do D&D this week, thank God.
Yeah.
Because I missed out. I tried.
Yeah.
It got so bad that like we waited an hour just to make sure everyone was in. And in that hour, I went from perfectly fine and excited to I need to lay down or I'm going to die.
Yeah.
It was bad. And I was running a fever. Like, legit, I went down. I was 102 degrees. And I was like, why?
Yeah. The last time I was in at the doctor, I was like 99.7.
Yeah.
For no reason. And she was like, your heart rate is out of control. And I was like, yeah.
I know.
This is the dysautonomia of springtime, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm not sleeping.
Yeah, no.
Which I hate.
I am not doing that
annoying.
Either. I've been okay. I've been getting like a nap every morning from like 4 to 5. 4 to 6.
Oh my God.
A nap.
It's something. It's not great, but it's something. Yeah.
Anyway.
You go ahead.
What else? I've been hanging out with the kids a bunch. Mm-hmm. We've been watching things like Rory just watched The Matrix with us. And he was really into it. He hit halfway through. He's like, I'm so glad I didn't go play Team Fortress 2 halfway through. I was like, yeah, no, it got good, right? He's like, oh yeah, it was really good. So I'm probably going to watch the rest of those with him.
Good.
And then I've been hanging out with Welcome Home Cards. Shameless plug. Check them out on TikTok.
They are fantastic.
There's a link in the description, I'm sure.
Yes.
But yeah, I might even get to do some editing stuff. Mm-hmm. That would be really cool. I'm down.
Really cool.
I love editing anything.
Yes.
And like we did edits for Yeti back when he was doing his YouTubes or his TikTok run.
Right.
And that went pretty well. He liked it.
They're fun.
So yeah, I've been doing that.
And you're good at it. So
in theory.
Well, in practice also.
It's hard editing for other people. Like when I have my vision,
what
I know
their vision is.
And I don't want to mess it up. I'm always so like, I like give me more details. The more details you can give me, if you want to point at something and be like that, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's simple, but we'll see.
Right.
I'm excited.
Good.
Been hanging out with them. They're good people.
Yeah.
You hung out with me
They're
the other day.
adorable. They're very sweet. Yeah. They came over because we were both like, everything's bad. And I was like, I'm coming over and you can't stop me.
I was so excited though.
Yeah.
Because I was in the office and I was like, yes, a friend.
Yes. And we hung out for a while and we doodled and it was great fun.
We did a ton of pulls.
Mm-hmm. It was fun.
So many pulls.
Got some good stuff.
I did actually.
Yeah.
My favorite thing was that we got a really, really good card and us just kind of skipped over it. It's like, oh, and what was it? It was like a Dialga or a Palkia. I think it was Palkia.
Okay.
This is a really good one.
That's fun.
And it was just like, oh. And then someone in the chat was like, wow, very underwhelming reaction to a great pull. I was like, we're trying to pull all the things, guy. We don't have time.
All of them. All right. On to the next one.
It was cool.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was very fun. And I don't even like partake technically, but it's fun.
No, you got to enjoy it though.
Yeah.
See the chaos.
They're just fun people to hang out with.
Yeah.
And they're very sweet. But yeah.
We should interview them at some point. What's it like being normal? What's health like? Unless you guys are horribly unhealthy, in which case we can make that work too. If you're horribly unhealthy, tell us about it. That's what we're about. I mean,
tell me all of the things.
Let us get to know you.
Or else. What?
Or else. Yeah, I mean, that was it. And we can finally get to the conversation about context.
Yes.
We've been talking about this for so long.
I know. And then we keep skipping it because last week we were not good.
No.
It was just not good. It was just not good. We died a little bit.
Oh.
A lot of it, actually. But we're back and we're ready to go. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. This is kind of your baby.
The context. Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of is a little bit. So we're mostly talking about context as it applies to you and to others.
In ways that you don't normally, like, we're always like having a conversation and having the context to it is important.
Yeah.
That we get. But
this is
we don't
social context.
apply it to ourselves normally.
Yes.
Like her big revelation is literally, I'm not a well person. I just am doing better because I went through this.
Yeah.
Like,
so this was just a thought that I was like,
it's a good thought.
I need to share this with somebody because I don't really know if I like what I thought just now. And so I said, just a random thought. Healing does not make you a different person. You are still that wronged child, the angry teen, the insecure adult. They all stay with you forever. Like, you don't magically become a mentally healthy and typical person because you've done the work. I'll never be a totally mentally healthy person, but I have enough Band-Aids to keep me from bleeding out all the time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, that was my revelation of
context. It literally
is.
Yeah. Yeah, that is context. You have the context of your life.
That's exactly how I was going to put it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the context of your life. Your life's story is still 100% relevant.
I said it relevant in my head too when you said it that way.
I was like, why did I say that? Oh, weird.
We
had a misfire there. Mind bullets, but they went that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's all relevant information.
Mm-hmm.
And it applies to how we see the world, how we approach the world, and how we handle situations within.
Mm-hmm.
So through trauma, we've gained a lot of like resilience. And those are the Band-Aids that keep us from bleeding out.
And skills,
as well as like that coping and like understanding yourself. And all of this, I want to just be really, really clear on this. All of this comes from having done years and years of therapy. Like, that's what I mean when I say I've done
and different types of therapy.
Yes.
Like it's been years and years. It hasn't been one doctor the whole time doing the same. How do you feel this week?
Right.
No, it's been work. She's done worksheets. She's done books. She's done activities.
Yep.
Like, bro has been worked.
Right. Well, and some like the context in my life right now has been causing kind of an influx, like an uptick in my like trauma brain, I guess is the best way to put it. And so remembering that trauma brain is still in existence,
right,
and still is going to be like, hey, excuse me, every once in a while, is important. It's
so important to remember you have context.
Yeah.
Like when we were talking about it just now, like the idea that your life is your context.
Right.
People don't walk around with that. They say I've seen things or I've been through things, but then they kind of discount it like it happened.
Yeah.
It's no longer relevant, but it absolutely is relevant.
Right.
It's huge. It's who you are. It's why you do things.
Exactly.
And you can understand that yourself and be like, okay, I get why I did that in that situation.
Right. Well, and that in and of itself is huge, because there are so many people walking around reacting, like living in a reactionary way, right? Like they're not actively living their life. They're living their life in reaction to stimuli.
Yeah, whatever comes, which is horrible when something negative comes their way, because then they react negatively.
Right. Well, and they may not even understand their own reactions.
Right.
And if you don't understand your own reactions, first of all, you're going to be really, like, it's going to be really challenging for you to manage that behavior. It's going to be really challenging for you to manage your like social, emotional life as a whole.
Yeah.
If you are living in reaction to everything, it's incredibly difficult to come to a place where you can take like responsibility and ownership.
That's got to be really frustrating for people who are starting out on the journey, and they don't know that since they've been living reactively, they haven't been making the choices. Right. They've been living the choices, right? So it's hard. It's got to be hard to hear that from a doctor or someone, be like, you are responsible for those.
Yes.
Even though you may not have actively been participating in them, like mentally, you still did that. That's still you. That's heavy, to hear. I'm sure it's not how you open the conversation either.
Right,
but
exactly.
To get to that point and be like, oh, I guess you're right.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people don't want to hear it.
No.
A lot of people want to continue their life blaming other people and other things overarching for where they find themselves in life.
Yeah.
And not to say that like, oh, well, where you find yourself is always your fault. No, but the way you react in life is always your responsibility. You are in charge of you. That's it. Like point blank.
Best example I have that really kind of illustrates that. We were talking about this last week when we were bringing it up, but like the journey that Randy and I have been on through discovering we're bipolar to like the different phases, everything that happened beforehand is us. Yeah. And it's hard to choke down sometimes because we were a lot.
Yeah.
We've done some things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Made mistakes, but and we own that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does too, because I've talked to him about stuff. Yeah. But it's like, now that we have the context, we understand why we were doing those things. It makes making those mistakes less likely. Yes. Like continuing the pattern. Yeah. It's so much easier to break the pattern when you are aware of like the precursors and antecedents of what those triggers are and your behaviors that come about from them. Yeah. I was always so confused as to why I had such big reactions to things. Yeah. Not all things, but like if I had someone coming at me and I felt defensive at all, it was always a big reaction, like a huge, like, excuse me, we don't play that game. And it was always so over the top, and I never understood why. Yeah. And now I can go back and be like, oh, yeah, well. Not only was I insecure about that thing, but also I was very upset about everything all the time. Right. Well, and for me, it's a lot of like understanding trauma brain and understanding the ADHD and understanding my triggers and understanding that like runaway brain is going to live with me forever. Right. Forever. Like I'm going to have, and it was funny because so the things that are happening in my life are very overwhelming and very emotional right now. Very. They've made me very overwhelmed and emotional. And I've had a lot of like emotional reaction to it. But then there, on the other hand, it's really difficult to like navigate the, I described it as like, there's two wolves in my brain. Oh, yeah, and one of them is the trauma part and one of them is the skills and the work that I've done. Yeah. And I want sometimes to live in the trauma part and be out of control. I want that. I want to like wallow in my shit. Yeah. But then all my skills come in and they're like, remember all the things that you've learned? Well, and I'm like, One of the skills that you need to acquire is letting yourself wallow in it without judgment or without trying to fix it.
Right.
Like, that's hard for everyone.
I've done a lot of work in, like, not intellectualizing my feelings as much and, like, spending time being in my feelings without trying to change them.
Yeah, but can you do it to where you're just letting go? You know what I mean? Can you just let yourself fully experience how upset something makes you without you, like, filtering it a little bit or trying to control it?
Yes and no, I think, because there's always that, like I can let go, but it kind of comes in phases.
Right, yeah.
So there's not, like, this long wallowing process or long timeline with it. Mm-hmm. It's like I have these crazy emotional moments and then we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And then we come back and we, like, loop through the same emotion a couple times before we're done with it.
It's like visiting it and then you go back and you visit it again. It's like
grieving.
It is. That's what I was going to get at, is that part of what our grandfather was saying the other day was that people need to learn to grieve everything.
Yes.
So that it's not all at once.
Yeah.
You've suddenly lost everything. It's like when you have to use the stair chair or the stair wheel lift thing. I hate it. I love it, but I hate it. But that, mourning that was important.
Right.
To be like, well, now sometimes I need to go up the stairs with a chairlift.
Yeah.
Important to acknowledge it and be in it and then move on.
Right. Exactly. Well, and I think, like, learning to grieve everything is so important when you have chronic illness. Mm-hmm. And especially when you have a progressive chronic illness, in the fact that you are going to lose more and more things as time goes on.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a process where you're going to lose a bunch and then it's going to stay that way forever. Like, we're losing things in stages. And for me, it's a lot of, like, learning to let go of the insane amount of responsibility that I feel about it, because it isn't something I can control.
Right.
There's not a lot I can do about it. Like, I can continue pushing myself to the limit, but I'm gonna wind up in the grippy sock vacation house.
Yes.
If I continue the way that I have been with trying to brute force my life.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to me either. Like, I've done the work. I need to remember the work.
Yeah.
And I need to let my emotions be my emotions without having to add self-destructive behavior to that. Because that's the instinct, right? Is to, like, respond to the uncomfortable emotion with an action or a behavior. That's
something not healthy.
Right. Exactly.
it's the let's take this to the extreme and feel again.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's where, like, trigger warning, like, self-harm can come into play.
Yeah.
And those are things that, like, they cross my mind, but not in a serious way, because it's like I can hear the trauma brain and know it's the trauma brain talking.
Well, that's what you said at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's there. It's still you.
Yes.
But now you have a different set of skills and a different outlook.
Yeah.
And understanding of yourself. You understand yourself so much better than you did.
And that makes such a huge, huge difference in being able to go through difficult moments and uncomfortable emotions. Mm-hmm. It makes a huge difference in how I process the world around me, and in not, I don't even know, like, being able to give myself grace for the things I can't control.
Right.
And even though I'm losing things, I don't have to be responsible for the loss itself. Like, what was it that Lou said? Give yourself grace because you're going through something exceptional, right?
Yeah, that these are exceptional times.
Right.
And we don't normally see them as such.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing, is, like, if everything is exceptional, like it is, I hate it, but that's the way it is like, and I hate thinking about it that way, because exceptional to me is like, oh, you're special. But I don't want to be this kind of special, guys. I don't want my face to be on fire. I don't want fatigue to be, like, my mortal enemy. I don't want to dislocate all the time. I don't want to be putting off surgeries for the sake of convenience.
Yeah.
Like, all of these things, like, I can't control it. And I need to be able to give myself grace and say, like, these are not normal things that I am going through. None of what I'm going through is quote unquote normal.
It's so hard to, like, to remember that
when
everything's abnormal.
Yes.
It's hard to
and it becomes your normal.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, I know it's not normal for normal people, but
right, exactly. That is the
right.
Which I think in a way is hypocritical of me.
It is.
Because it's that like, oh, I don't want to be special, but I'm so special that I need to expect more from myself than other people ever.
Right.
That's dumb, dear. That's not great. No. Sweet one, like be kind to you or else. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to remember the context of your life, especially when there are things that you don't want to remember.
I was gonna say, yeah.
You don't want to integrate.
For anyone traumatized, that's the biggest thing. Is like,
yes,
that's part of who you are.
Yeah.
You don't want to remember it all the time, but
right.
It is part of the equation that is you.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing of like being able to identify and understand your triggers is a really big one, and that's what I would do with my students when I was teaching effective ed. Was like, what are your triggers? Do you know and understand why they trigger you the way that they do? Do you know and understand the behavior that comes from that?
Yeah. Because
you are trying to escape this uncomfortable feeling. But when you understand your triggers, you can be like, that triggered. That's oof.
Yeah, you become that friend that no one likes, who's always triggered by everything. But it's just you pointing it out to yourself. Yeah. Like, ooh, I don't know why, but that triggered me.
Right.
You're not saying it to be like, don't ever say that again. It's like,
you're
saying it to yourself because you're like, wow, okay.
Right. Like me and glitter.
Yeah.
Why is glitter triggering? Why is that like so unbelievably anxiety inducing? The heck is that? But I can understand and be like, okay, that's a you problem, not a don't let children play with glitter ever problem. Because then you're avoidant. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I got you.
So do you want to go over the levels of context? Because that was kind of your baby in this piece.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of what we talked about already. But the different levels of context in general. Because when we were talking about this the first time, I was like, oh, I get it. Like there's the snapshot view of you in the moment.
Right.
And your immediate context. So like us in the podcast right now would be like, context is they're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
They're being stupid. Blah, 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 blah. Look at the things that they say. Ugh.
Cringe.
They're cringe lording it up. But then there's like the in-between, like full life and like the current news, basically, like what you're going on, like the bigger-ish picture, like you with work right now.
Right.
That's the thing. Me with getting my knee fixed.
Right.
And just dealing with fatigue. Like that's bigger-ish picture. And then there's the whole thing, right?
Right, which is like the I exist in the world ill and with trauma.
Well, and the thing is like different things require different views, right?
Yes. That like reframing and the ability to pivot in your reframing. Yeah. Like this is something I want to drive home is like being able to reframe doesn't just mean being able to shift your view to one thing. It's being able to shift and try to collect as much of that like 360 view as you can. Yeah.
You're not trying to redo, you're trying to include.
Yes.
You're adding things to the view.
Right, exactly. Which is huge. And I think there's also the societal level of context.
Oh, God. It's like its own thing. Because then there's how... there's two then, right? Because then there would be societal and then perceived societal.
Yes.
Right. So then there's like what people think of you and your macular view.
Yeah.
And then what they think of the bigger. And then there's what you think people are thinking about you and what you push onto yourself because you feel like it's a societal thing.
Right. Right. Well, and that's like driven by shame.
Oh, yeah.
In one of the worst ways. And if you've been with us for a while, we've talked about shame before and how destructive shame is as a whole.
Yeah.
And it really is. If you can't live your life beyond the shame, you need help. You need to get help because let me tell you, as somebody who lived in shame brain for like 19 years of my life.
Yeah.
Maybe longer than that. Leaving that behind was the most emotionally healthy thing I could possibly have done for myself.
Right.
And understanding where that shame came from.
It's such a difficult ask too.
Yeah.
How do you tell someone to go from feeling hyper vigilant about everything they do, to basically asking them to feel like everything's okay,
right,
and not like be. Because I feel like you could interpret that and being, well, you're just a douchebag. You're,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're just better than everything. You're above it all.
Yes. When I approach it with, like, students, we generally go through, like, I'll give an example from my own life.
Yeah,
because
of course.
that's really important to me as far as, like, teaching emotional management and that, like, emotional regulation is understanding that adults aren't perfect and they didn't pop out of the ground being adults. And that they have a bunch of context too.
I was gonna say it's you giving them context, right? Because like the two ways you could approach that situation are you need to stop doing what you're doing,
right?
Or what you're thinking, even if you're trying to be deep, you know, like with like your thought process
is just wrong,
is unhealthy. You need to stop it. There's that, and then there's like, well, I had that same problem at your age, and this is why I had that problem, and this is how I corrected it.
Right.
That's a completely different beast.
And usually it's like in the form of, well, I went on that road for a really long time until I realized this thing, or somebody taught me this thing, or I discovered this thing. And usually when it comes to like shame is learning whose voice that is.
Oh yeah, because it's not yours.
It's not yours.
It is not your voice.
Guilt is I did something bad, right? Shame is I am bad. Like I am the worst. I am a bad human.
What mat do we have that written on? Where I was like,
the first
decoding it, where it's like, shame, I feel bad.
No, it's not. It wasn't in the mat. It was in the book.
In the book.
In the book. It's a TikTok, so you can go watch that.
It's a great TikTok.
It's hilarious. Yes.
I've solved EDS.
The key to EDS. Yes, but that's exactly it. Is like, whose voice is that?
Right.
Where is that shame coming from?
You know what's interesting is that you can have that voice be someone different than it actually is. Have you ever had that happen where like you think it's this person that's saying that in your life, but it actually is coming from a different person completely?
I don't know that I've gone that far, like in exploration.
I have.
Usually it was like
where I'll blame certain things on so and so.
Oh, like smoke screening. Okay.
And I'll be like, it was definitely this person that said that.
Yeah.
But then for some reason, there's another person. And for whatever reason, you don't want that to be true, but it's absolutely
brain
true.
Tries to protect you.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I have gone through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, this weird thing. Because like growing up with CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress, which is differentiated from post-traumatic stress by continual trauma and repeated trauma, usually throughout childhood, right? And so, it's hard to shift out whose voice is whose and what that first wound was. Because that's the thing is like in moments of trauma, we are learning something.
Yeah.
And what we are learning about the world is not, I'm not going to say it's not healthy because it really is. Like your brain is trying to protect you.
Right. From the environment that you're in.
Right. But it may not be accurate.
Right. No, it's yeah. I had a lot of that because I have multiple people in my life that have been almost in the same role. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just depending on different eras of my life.
Right.
And I found out more recently that one of them is way less dependable than I thought it was and makes everything make sense.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it was generally within those same two people, maybe 3 or 4. But generally all of those voices that I was collecting came from my home life when I was a child.
Exactly.
And childhood for me was shame. It was filled with shame. It was reinforced with shame. It was like the dialogue was around shame constantly.
No wonder. I just realized that I used to try to make Sundays like a relief.
Yeah.
Like that was away from everything.
Yeah.
But I never got that relief because it was just more shame. Yeah. Does that make sense? So there was no break in me hating myself for doing everything wrong.
Right. Well,
and I tried to do that thing where it's like, I was like, well, they're religious. I'll be just as religious. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, it's the chameleon thing, right?
Right.
Like,
and I thought maybe there was something in it. You know what I mean?
I guess.
That'd be healing and
no. And connection, because that's really what we crave is connection.
Yeah.
And when you don't have it and can't get it, a lot of that becomes shame in and of itself.
Well, you
too.
go to church and you can read people like a book, and you know that you can point out the ones that are faking it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is so fake. I hate this. There's nobody here that's real.
Right. That was my whole freaking childhood.
Yeah.
And then adults would talk to me, and then they would learn really quickly not to talk to me because I would ask them really, really difficult questions. And they would be like, I don't know what to do with this child. Run away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shame's a trip, man. If you can leave shame behind, do it. If you need help to leave shame behind, do it, because it is worth it. It is worth it.
So maybe the point is more like looking back on context and like shame, like how do you contextualize without shading things, like with emotions? Does that make sense? Like we went from having a lot of shame from youth, which is still there. There's still that person who is absolutely shamed out of existence. But then there's us looking back going, as a person, though, we did nothing wrong.
Right.
We're not something to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And they exist at the same time. But then, like, how do you try and unshade it, I guess? Does that make sense? Where, like, an overwhelming feeling will take over a part of your history, your context. Yeah. And you don't want that to be the context. You don't want it all to be, like, a negative just because something bad happened. You know what I mean?
Are you so like you mean like the wounds, like how how do we get past those wounds that teach us a thing?
Exactly. That's
okay.
It.
So like trauma can lead to hypervigilance, right? Like that's the thing that was taught to you. Or in CPTSD, maybe one reprimand done in the wrong way from a parent can lead to a lifelong lesson.
To add on to that question, now that we're in it, does healing have to be both at the same time? What
do you mean?
Can you start trusting people and be less hypervigilant without addressing the like shame or the trauma that comes with it? Does that make sense?
I think if they're attached to like different skills,
they kind of
absolutely can.
Okay.
It's really hard. I'm going to just say it's really hard to address behaviors that are attributed to trauma without addressing the trauma.
Yeah. You can try
that. That can be really hard.
We both did that for a very long time where we tried to do the healing with that.
There are still things that I'm like, I don't want to remember that, but I'm going to work on the skills. It's like
this giant black hole that everything falls into. And we're like, we have all this to walk on, but we want to walk right here next to the edge.
Yeah.
And then maybe, funny, I almost fell into the pit.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah. Because it's a good question. Like, how do you do...
It makes sense if it's not if you can attribute it to something else, you will.
Yes. Well, and that's what I call smoke screening.
Yeah.
Which is something that like my husband and I have gone through a lot because he'll go through difficult things where he's like, nah, I feel this way because of this.
And he doesn't.
And you're like,
the thing that's frustrating is he doesn't do it on purpose either.
No.
It's his body, his mental.
His brain and his body are trying to protect him.
Where'd you go?
What are you looking for?
I dropped the circle.
Oh, no. Circle break. Is it under? Oh, it's on your pants.
On my pants?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There you go.
Anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah. Sorry.
But that's like a self-defense thing.
Yes.
The smoke screening.
Smoke screening. Yes. It is. It absolutely is. And I used to do it too, where I would be like, you're in the emotion and you're not even really sure why you're feeling that emotion. Mm-hmm. And so you start pulling out reasons from a hat going, it's this one. Well, no, never mind. It's this one.
It's a box labeled, actually, it's not here.
One. Yeah.
Because you're like, oh God. I think I was the most annoying person to get to know between the ages of 19 and 25.
What do you mean?
Because I had so much stuff going on in the background.
Yeah.
All the time that I didn't address, and I was like, nah, I don't ever have to address it. I can become a person on my own. Yeah. But it was literally anything would set me off, and then I would point to like the nearest thing. Oh, it was the light. Chris, what are you talking about?
That's making me mad.
That wavelength of light angers me.
It just causes this.
Well, and then you just start trying to justify it with anything. Like, the shape is aggressive, and I really don't like it.
I don't like how it's looking.
It's not that you angered me and that I'm mad at you, because God forbid I can't be angry at the only people who are nice to me, because if I'm mean to them, they're not going to love me anymore. It's that light.
Yeah. Well, and that in and of itself, that fawning behavior is something that I have dealt with also, where it's like I couldn't stand up for myself in any situation, if I felt wronged by someone, that I was like, no, but I like you.
Exactly.
And I want to have an emotional connection to you, but you've also wronged me. But I'm worried that if I stand up for myself, you're going to leave me. Mm-hmm. Trauma brain. Hello. Welcome. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. Like addressing those social issues, I still think it's really hard if you don't understand yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, yeah. I feel like there are certain behaviors I fixed without addressing the problem, but I think they were tied to other things.
Right.
Which is what made it possible for me to like suss them out and be like, I can change that.
Yeah.
And then it eventually led to the big problems.
Right.
Like acknowledging them and being like, hey, I'm 30. How about I start telling the truth? Weird.
Maybe if I don't lie to myself, I could get better. Yeah. But we want to lie to ourselves. We don't want it to be that thing. I don't want it to be that person who hurt me. I don't want that to be my history. That's sad and dark. And people look at me like I'm a puppy who's been kicked enough times.
That moment when you're in a friend group and you casually drop something and they all look at you and go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And you're like,
or they're like, that's abuse. And you're like, no, it's not.
No, see, it's not. What you're missing, the thing is they did it playfully, so it wasn't abuse.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's
yeah. Or like somehow it's my fault. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I didn't.
You weren't there. You didn't see what I did.
Yeah.
I've said that before. Like, no, you don't get it. You weren't there. I remember I did something.
That was totally me. I don't know. Yeah. Well, because that abandonment wound is so deep, and that's a wound that has been reinforced a lot of times throughout our like formative years, especially because like our history is so weird to be. Because there's an abandonment wound that exists when that person was still living in the same house.
Yeah.
And then that wound is just perpetuated forever. Because it doesn't ever stop.
Okay, so we've addressed that. What I just had a thought that I think is kind of interesting.
Go for it.
We're talking about like in levels of context, right?
Yes.
Like, wow, I'm asking like 1,000 questions a minute because I'm onto something. But the first question was, how do you suss out how much of your context to give? So it's not oversharing, but that it's enough that they don't think ill of you. That's the thing. And then my second question was, how much context do you have to give yourself in a situation?
Right.
Like if you're triggered by something, like how deep do I go? Because I could make it a deep problem, or it could be a shallow problem. I don't know. It's just these are random things popping in my head.
What was the first question?
First one was, how do you know how much context to hand out? And I guess it applies to yourself. It's both to yourself and to other people. Like how much, like say you stub your foot and you go, God damn it, I hate wood. And they're like, what? Okay, so when I was 3, a tree came out and kicked me in the shin. And then I had that tree turn into a fucking planter. And then you know what that planter did? Tripped me and hit the same shin. I hate wood. Like, is that inappropriate? Or should I just say, ow? That was the right thing to say.
Well, and that's the thing about, and this is the frustrating part about being neurodivergent. Because the thing that's like mask all the time forever is not innate. It's not innate. And so when I'm interacting with people, and I had this happen because I had somebody be like, be careful who you talk to around here because they blah, 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 blah. And that for me is super triggering because I don't want to play that game. No. I don't want to try to figure out who I can trust and who's playing games.
The problem is,
do that.
The problem is you shouldn't be a part of the game because you don't play the game.
Yes.
But we are part of the game,
and that's the societal context.
And that's them doing their thing.
Yep.
And not everyone has your best interest in mind.
Right. Well, and that's that like societal context in general. Does she come with food?
Oh, she comes with food.
She comes with food. Ta-da!
Bagel bites everywhere.
But yeah, that's that like societal context is understanding, and this is where the context comes in, that you are a neurodivergent human. And that you have to mask because society sucks.
I still haven't. Okay. So it's a time to be real. Because I've been so fake. Oh no,
he's so fake. All the time.
I still don't wear neurodivergence as a label. And I need to.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a part of the context that hasn't been integrated.
Right.
Yeah.
It's there, and I accept it, but for some reason it hasn't like been absorbed in. It's like a different fluid, and it's like you know what I mean?
That's my husband with the bipolar.
It sits in the middle.
Like, he forgets that it exists,
right?
And that it
I don't know why I have such a problem with it, because I am definitely
yes,
divergent.
Yes,
but I just don't. I don't know. Maybe because everything supersedes it. It's like before I'm bipolar, or I'm bipolar, I'm EDS, I'm all this before it even gets to neurodivergency. And then to me, it feels like, oh, I don't know. For some reason, I don't deserve it because I have too many.
Like, I've been collecting all the diagnoses, and I can't have any more.
But yeah, I need to add that into the context, because that's a lot of what happens. Whenever I have to say it out loud, the answer I always get back from you or from Jen is neurodivergence. And I'm like, duh.
Especially when it comes to things like that, where you're like, I want to give you all the context, because like, you betraying me with my information is not the first thing that comes to mind.
Right.
Hypervigilance aside, I am not expecting every person that I speak to screw me over.
Right. No. We come in like puppy dogs. We think everything's sunshine and rainbows.
I want to have a connection with you as a human person.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to have that connection as a human person, I have to disclose some context.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it anyway. Like, how are you supposed to have this side-by-side relationship where you see each other every day and not give personal information or details or whatever? But then on the other hand, being vague takes more friggin' energy.
It does.
So if I were to be like, oh,
it takes more energy not only to just be vague, but to stomach it. Yeah. Because like you said, we want to, like, it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
I want to have a relationship with you. It needs to know whether or not to hate you or not.
Yeah.
And I need to hate you not because of your casual persona. I need to hate you on a fundamental level, knowing that this comes from your background.
Yes.
Like, I need to know that I hate you.
I need to know who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Or love you.
Right.
I only have 2 settings.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's what happens when you're pan and you're like, people are people.
Well, and that's how I feel about it. And that's like, that's been part of my pedagogy for years, is like, children are children are children.
Yeah.
Regardless of ability or age.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I've learned about the world. End of story.
You've also learned that all adults are children.
Yes. That adulthood is a lie. It's a lie made up by people who are authoritarian in their parenting.
I was about to say, people who think that the only way to have authority is to be better than.
Yes.
And the only way to be better than is to be more adult.
And belittle
anything that gives me superiority over you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking psychopaths.
Right? Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard when you like, I want to give you the details, but then, and this is a game I play all the time, where I'm like, if I'm calling out of work, how much do I give?
Right.
Because there's two ways of playing it. There's like, I give you all the details and you think I'm lying.
Quick question before you answer.
Yeah, go.
Who do you message? Is it your boss directly, or does it have to travel through people?
My boss directly, usually.
Okay, that makes it better. That's somewhat better.
Yeah.
Problem is that she'll then take that and ask people for their opinions. That's the problem for me.
Right.
So I would be like, God, that's so frustrating, because like I want to describe the whole situation so they understand I'm not being lazy and that it's not just me calling out. But
I want to give them all the context.
If I give you all the context,
I want to give you the details.
Fucking Susan down the street's going to know about it.
Right.
And she's going to think horrible things about it.
It's not even that people are going to know. It's that if I over-explain, do I come off like I'm lying?
Oh, yeah.
And if I under-explain, do I come off as if I'm lying? At what point, like, what is the perfect golden ratio for giving information about myself and what I'm going through?
All based on her and her personality.
Exactly. Well, and that was one of the things I had to learn, was that I cannot control how other people perceive me, no matter how much I want to.
No.
And that's the wound of not having been believed as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, as an adult who's still doing the work and has done a lot of work, as an adult, I struggle to feel like I am believed. I struggle to feel like I'm being validated.
Yeah.
I struggle to not try to control other people's reactions or monitor their emotions for them, or all of the things that trauma brain has taught me how to do to protect myself.
Yeah. No,
I have to let go.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, I have to let go because it's not mine to deal with.
No, and think about how freeing that is, though, in its own. That it's not up to you anymore.
Right.
But then there is still the matter of people are going to perceive
people
this
are still
away.
people, yes.
They're going to have an opinion about it no matter what.
And people are still people who...
And they're not everyone's out for your better.
Right. Well, and that's the the part where we come to like Q-tip.
Right. Quit taking personally.
Is like, stop taking other people personally because, darling, it's probably not about you.
Have you seen that guy who was randomly interviewed on the side of the street and somebody walks through the shot? And the interviewer goes, "Oh, that was really rude." And the guy that he's interviewing goes,
"Oh, yes.
Actually, no. He's probably just lost in his own world. Yeah. Think about it. We're all people. We're all in our own world. He didn't do that to be rude. He didn't do that to slight you. He did that because he's got his own things going on, his own traumas, his own like missions. It's perfectly normal."
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, "Wow." And then he says that's deep, and the guy goes into a whole tangent about how you have to be deep because otherwise all you ever get is shallow answers and shallow existence.
100%. Well, and that's exactly it when it comes to like understanding other people's behavior and not to justify other people's behavior, but to understand that it's not a personal slight and that other people are just being other people. And that, guess what? Weird concept. Other humans have just as complex lives as you do.
You know what sucks though? Is that if you tell people that you're understanding them or you're talking to a friend about how you're not judging people, but you're observing them, but like you understand them, people will still assume you're judging them.
Yeah.
They still take it as why are you judging them? Like, I'm not. I'm understanding where they're coming from.
I'm exploring them.
I'm not judging it at all. They could be total twats. I don't care.
Right. I'm not justifying the behavior. I'm just saying that it's not about me.
Right.
That's what I'm saying there. Yeah. No, but that's a hard one. And it's a hard one to like teach adults because we want it to be about us in a way. Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost kind of a need. For the brain to be involved in everything that it knows about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like when I think about people and like the whole, like any governmental like conspiracy or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Or any like government policy, people feel super invested in some of them because they need to be involved. Like they feel like it's about them.
Oh, yeah.
Directly. Right. Like, right. Or like even in like friend groups when you have like a side to pick.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm really bad in those situations because I understand both sides. I understand.
That, yes.
So I can't just tell you this person's wrong and you're right. You're both in the wrong in a way. I'm in the wrong. I should have said something sooner about whatever. Right. But
it's such a hard thing to navigate too when you do understand everybody.
Yeah.
And it doesn't leave room for a lot of anger.
Not if you're doing it right.
Can wound us in a way.
Oh, absolutely.
It prevents us from feeling our emotions because, like, cool, his behavior wasn't about you, but it still affected you and it still hurt you.
There's the caveat. We always add that in.
Yeah.
That it made me feel a way.
Right.
And then this is everything else.
Right.
Like I always preface those, even when they're in my head, it's I feel this way about it.
Yes.
But this is why it's like this.
Yeah. Well, and that's just the art of reframing, right?
Right.
Is like, oh, he cut you off not because
I'm the worst to drive in a car with.
The worst. But because he's really in a hurry to get somewhere. Oh my God.
Jen's like, here are expletives you've never heard before. Here are hand signs that mean things in Bengali. I'm like, maybe they're just a little late and they're not thinking about you.
Right.
And she's like, I don't want to hear that shit right now. I want to run some people over. I'm like, yeah, but you don't need to be so angry about it.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, and I don't know if this applies to a lot of other people, but I know it applies to some of our people where it's that like, anger is exhausting.
Oh, absolutely.
Being offended is exhausting. Reacting to other people's behavior is exhausting. If I need to react to their behavior, it's going to be because I feel away, not because they behaved away.
Right.
Like that's
that happened to me yesterday. Something similar.
Huh.
Jen and I were talking and I was trying to get Jen to like relax and stop overdoing it. And
oh, yeah.
She wasn't listening. And so I was already like in a mood. And then Sophie she's in her moody era where everything she does has an attitude. Yeah. She doesn't know it.
Yeah.
But it comes off.
Yeah.
So she did whatever.
She's a preteen.
And she had the attitude. And I was like, no, come back here and do that right. And we had this whole thing. I was like, good. Yeah, you did it right. And then I walked to the room. I'm like, what the fuck was that about? And I walked back to her and I'm like, sorry, that had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You were just the agent of, or my like catalyst of a rage that was not yours.
Exactly. And
so I went up.
But again, context.
Yeah.
The context of how we were raised. And I've seen so many people talk about this. There's a lot of like really good TikToks on how to raise your children and essentially re-raise yourself in the process.
Dude.
Yeah.
That was huge. That's part of why having kids was amazing for me.
It's so healing.
Because I was able to apply things that I wouldn't apply to myself to the kids. And then I was like, but I was a kid.
Right.
That's like I was able to do a lot of healing that way.
It allows you to, exactly. It allows you to forgive yourself and to take some of that responsibility off of you and be like,
especially
I was
when
7.
I was like 4 and I was getting beat the shit up for stupid shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were like, wow, that was not about me.
It had nothing to do with me.
Nope.
I wasn't a bad kid.
No.
I saw this
TikTok the other day. I think I sent it to you. The one where it says you cannot be a good child to a bad parent.
Aw.
Yeah.
Aw.
You cannot be a good child to a bad parent.
Aw, man, that makes me be nice to myself. I don't like that.
I know.
Because immediately I'm like, there goes all my fun in making fun of myself for the kids because I'm a bad parent. They're good kids. They're
very good kids. But that's the thing is like how healing it can be to not perpetuate cycles of abuse and hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a lot of healing in that because then you can right then and there recontextualize not only the behaviors that kids do because they're kids, but also your reactions to it and being able to compare them side by side.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, this is what I don't want. So we're going to work on this. And when I fuck up, I'm going to apologize to my kid.
On the other end, I'm learning a lot about how reconnecting, like after a fight or an argument.
Oh, yeah.
How quickly as an adult we're able to move past and not hold it against them. But how I never got that.
Yes.
I never reconnected.
Never any rapport rebuilt. Ever.
Between any of my parents.
Nope.
So like it was always this.
You were in trouble until you weren't. And you had to just lay low and pray.
Right. So I always thought that they held on to things a lot longer, which made me feel even worse.
It makes you so nervous because you're like, wow, they're still mad at me for blah, blah,
blah. Oh, we're talking
blah.
Like months later even. They'll be like, oh, God, it's because I did that thing.
Well, it's like I always say, like for us, it was we were in trouble until the next kid was in trouble.
Which is true.
And that's how it worked. That was the dynamic.
Yeah.
There was no rapport rebuilt. And so being able to do that with your own children or the children you work with, in my case, is huge.
Were you part of the Beyblade gang?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I'm remembering it right.
Yeah. I kicked everybody's ass.
Well, do you remember us selling and trading?
One.
Like in between classes? Like, yeah, Mom would go for like break.
Oh, yeah.
And then we would like trade parts.
And we always played in the downstairs hallway.
Yeah.
Not in somebody's room. We were just in the hallway with the fucking
neutral ground. We didn't want to have unfair advantages.
That was cracking and falling apart. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. But I got in so much trouble for that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because we were trading parts, which is, I guess, gambling, which is what we were definitely doing.
Which is funny because our father taught us how to play poker.
Yeah. And I mean, the trades were fair.
Yeah.
I always made sure
everybody was happy.
Yeah.
Nobody was like robbed.
No, and then I would go out and buy more Beyblades for us and then park them out.
Yeah.
We never. I don't think I ever had a full set of one in the entirety of us playing.
I had this really super amazing. It was like a pearlescent metallic purple one. Yeah. I loved that thing. That thing kicked butt.
You got that for me.
Yeah.
I traded it.
It was great.
And I regretted it because it was really good.
It was so good. And
it was so good.
The like, I don't know. It goes like this. That one on it. Yeah. Oh, so good. But yeah, no, healing can be action. And I think that's important to know. Is like every time you turn away from an ingrained pattern of either trauma or like abuse, like that cycle that you need to break, every time you turn away from it, you're winning.
Yeah.
Every time you turn away from it, every time you do it and then come back and go, I didn't like that. I'm going to try to do better. Every time you own it, you're winning.
I was going to say, let's remove the trauma from it, right? Let's just say that even for people who were brought up a certain way, maybe their parents were great, but they still had certain tendencies that you don't want to replicate. You can still break that cycle.
Yeah.
And
not
who think badly of them. You're not judging them for changing.
Right.
That's who they were and who you were at the time.
Yeah.
But you can easily like change behaviors with your kids. Right. Take a new tack.
That's kind of, I think, outside of the trauma realm, it would be those kids who are like their parents pushed them for perfection constantly.
Yeah.
And being able to be like, okay, your grades are not everything and your value doesn't just lie in what you produce.
Yeah.
Like teaching all of those things can be really healing too. Like,
my kids are kind of disillusioned at grades because I don't.
They're like, they're not real.
Well, they do. They usually get really good grades, and there's like 2 semesters where they didn't. And I wasn't. They thought I was going to be like rage filled, and I was like, no, I understand. You mixed a lot of school, and you weren't doing your homework. Turn in your homework next time. And
right.
And then on the same end, I don't overreact when they get good grades. Right. I'm not like, oh my god. I was like, oh fuck yeah, you guys did great. Yeah. And then we did something to celebrate, and but I'm not like hardcore about that.
No.
Because
there are other things that matter, and like seeing a person as a person.
Yeah.
And then like a whole picture person.
I feel like grades mean more to people who use the school to raise their kids. Does that make sense? Where like they don't interact with them after school much.
Yeah.
Other than to yell at them and be like, do your chores.
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of Ren's friends are going through right now.
Yeah. I wanted somebody to be interested in my grades. I was doing really well for a long time. And then I was just like, and we're done.
To be fair, I was.
Yeah.
I was always competitive with you.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was healthy though.
You're right.
I was like,
we were just competitive in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's just how it is.
I'm still proud of you for doing good.
There was a lot of dopamine and being competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I like got awards my freshman year. They moved me up to like almost all honors classes my freshman year.
Same.
And I was like, I'm so awesome.
When I moved, when I went from school to homeschooling, which fell apart because it was that weird self-do homeschooling where like I would mail it in and they wouldn't really grade it.
Mail it in, really?
Yeah, it was what my mom was doing before I moved here.
Oh, okay, I was like, mom wasn't just
No. It was like this weird system.
That's so
my
bizarre.
grades were a 5.0 because I had only taken honors courses.
Oh wow.
And I was nailing it. And then when I came back for my junior year, or my senior year, which would have been my junior because I missed 2 years.
Yeah.
I was moved into honors classes again, and then told I couldn't do them. Yeah. And I couldn't do architecture, which would have been amazing.
It would have been amazing.
Mr. Erickson still let me sneak in and do architecture. It's fine. I got to do the architecture class. I finished his CAD drawing course within 2 months. So there's nothing left for me to do.
That would have been a really cool thing to do. Because I had interest in it too. I loved like buildings.
Did you ever get to see the Unicum silo?
Yeah.
Like the glass draft table?
Yeah.
Dude, I wanted to sit at that so bad. That was one of my biggest dreams was one day find him up there and be like, hey, can I sit at your draft table?
Right.
Because that looks really cool.
Oh, yeah.
So there was this metal silo.
Yep.
Like grain silo from a farm. And it had glass stairs spiraling up it to a floor.
Yep.
And then there were another set that went to the very top, which was a glass dome.
Glass dome that opened up on the stars.
And he had a glass drafting table sitting up there. So he would sit up there and draft, and he had like the stars or the sun and like above him. Oh,
so cool.
Oh, it was the coolest.
Just the most relaxing place. But yeah, I don't know. Context is important because you need to be able to understand yourself and not punish yourself for everything. Because it's one thing to be like, oh, I fell into an old behavior. Oopsies. I need to refresh my skills and I'm going to reach out and do blah, 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 blah.
Okay. As an actionable, since we're almost done, actionable thing that they can do, maybe work on fixing a habit. Yeah. Something that has been with you for...
Or catch yourself before you do it.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
That would
like,
be so important.
If you could alter a behavior from...
Or even just track it.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Track it.
Right.
If it's not a negative behavior.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that way you can start building the context because you can analyze why you do it.
Yes.
When you do it.
Exactly. Like what are the antecedents? What's happening prior to that behavior?
Yeah.
Like what are the things that set you off? And sometimes we don't know.
No.
Somatization.
There won't always be an answer.
Is crazy where people are like, oh, I don't feel emotions. I just feel sick in my body. Yeah. And then you have the kids who are like, I have a stomach ache. I have a headache. And it's literally anytime they're emotionally tipped over. Is they feel it in their body. So just, spend some time and track. Yeah.
Track a behavior.
Right.
Good or bad.
Something that you find yourself falling into, but that you're not super proud of.
Yeah. That's fair.
For me, it's that like runaway brain and my avoidance. This last couple weeks, I gave myself a total pass on avoidance. But
you did good. Yeah. You've been doing really well, honestly.
And I reached out and did the right things.
You've been doing great.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that emotionally I'm telling her how she is. Far from me to tell you that it's not great. You've handled it amazingly.
Like a boss.
Like every step of the way.
Good.
You've been like nailing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Very hard.
It's really hard not to indulge the runaway brain when it's like, burn your life down and run away to the woods.
Yeah.
Drive your car off a bridge.
My favorite thing is when you start being in it, like you'll message me and then
I'm spiraling.
Oh, no. And I'm like, this has to see its way through. Don't be like, it's just a mood. It's, or like, I try not to play it down at all.
Right.
I want you to experience the bad. But then once you're out of it, I want to be there to be like, oh, it's not that bad. Look, it's getting better. But you're already on it. Yeah. There's been no need for me to say anything.
I know, it's been crazy. And that's what I mean. Like, I had to explain it to a coworker and be like, all right, listen, I know this is like a feeling that I'm going through and it's not forever. And I'm mad that I know it's not forever.
It's hard to describe that feeling specifically.
To be like, I want to indulge in that behavior. It's like the pacifier, right? Like the tried and true, and it's not tried and true. It's tried. But, not tried and true. But
it's like trying to describe someone the feeling of stopping a sneeze.
Yes. Yeah.
Until you've experienced it, you have no idea what it's like.
Yeah.
But stopping a sneeze, like if you've ever done it,
you've sinned against God.
It feels like you've sinned against God. Like I'll get the shiver up my spine. I'm about to sneeze, and then I just don't. I fight it back, and then my body feels wrong. Everything feels like I'm an alien in this universe. I need to be purged.
You didn't
go away.
The ritual.
Right.
You're like, finish it.
Finish it.
Yeah. But yeah, like, be aware of you. Give yourself grace.
Give others grace.
Yeah, that too. Like, reframe that. And that's kind of what I mean when I say reframe to gain a 360 image. Is like, look at all the players in those situations. Think about the things that might be playing on in the background that you're not aware of. And understand that they are just as complex and screwed up as you are. And they're probably not thinking about you at all.
I was gonna say, it's probably they're more in it and less aware than you are in whatever they've got going on.
Right.
And they need the grace. Yeah. And maybe even start to help them. Like if you're in a position where you can point things out and be like, maybe you have, maybe this is going on and bothering you. Maybe.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because that's always been my job, is like, no, that's a smoke screen.
Yeah.
Let's try again.
Right.
Try again. What else is going on? Oh, well, this morning my dog died. Oh, wow. Maybe that's...
Could have led with dead dog.
Maybe that's why. And they're like, no, it's actually because... And you're like...
No.
Maybe it's because of the thing that you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We should call it.
So that's context for you.
We have pizza rolls.
I hope you enjoyed it. I'm excited
bites,
to attack these bagel bites in a minute here.
They have low HP, so they'll be good. Not great for experience points, but great for practice.
They're light. You can put them in your pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my friends. Just to get it out there, you need to drink water. You need to take your meds. You need to have a snack, because you are a snack.
You are.
What else?
I don't know. Maybe check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Are you feeling bipolar? Are you not? Are you feeling bipolar, but you're not bipolar?
Well,
maybe have that looked at. little pro tip. No shame in being bipolar, by the way. Most of the people that work on this podcast are bipolar, so
it's true. I don't know what it is. I'm the odd one out. I just have maybe like super sneaky bipolar.
Yeah, she's got that sneaky bipolar. She's tripolar. She's a little bit better than us.
Great. I have 3 moods, and that's it.
Anyways.
All right. So do those things, because you need to do those things.
Yep.
Go outside if it's a lovely day out. If it's raining and gross and you hate everything, maybe curl up with like a really fluffy blanket and some cozy socks.
And then put on the most emo music you have and just feel it.
Just feel it.
No one loves you. Your parents will never get you. You're alone. Sorry, I'm just channeling myself at 16.
He's like, I'm going to be emo now. Woo. Yeah.
I could do it.
But anywho.
It's a switch. Anyway.
It's the emo switch. Great. All right, friends. Be kind to you. Be kind to others. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait. Real quick.
Oh. Oh. That's it.
No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. I was going to say, check out our new show that's airing on maybe Wednesdays.
There you go.
It's just us having casual conversations.
Yep.
The lightheartedness.
The chaos.
The chaos.
The downright nonsense.
But join it if you're into our conversations. This is less serious, more fun. That's all.
If you want to know what it's like, go watch Life, the Universe, and Everything.
The movie.
No.
Then watch us, and then read the book.
No, just go watch our episode. You'll know what those new episodes will be about.
Yeah.
Whatever we want, really. The ADHD will fly. Free like a bird. All right. Bye.
Bye.